Hello, everyone. It's Dr. Marty Ross. And tonight is another one of our conversations with Marty Ross MD. We have a smaller turnout right now, but I anticipate as we get going, we'll have many more people show up. We've got about 70 people signed up tonight. Generally get about half of those that actually show up at these. So here in the beginning, you may get ample opportunity to ask your questions without as many participants. As usual, I am creating and recording tonight's webinar. I'm glad to see that some of you have your cameras on. I actually like that because I feel like I'm talking to people this way. But it's okay if you want to turn your camera off too. But Sen, it's good to see you there, and Teresa as well too, and Jenny. So good to see you there. So to write the way these work. Again, I'm creating a recording. I ask that you write your questions to me in the chat box because it just makes it easier for everyone to see your question and to get through them a little bit more quickly too. I'll answer your question to the best I can. I may ask you a few clarifying questions and have you turn your camera on if you're at a place you can turn your camera on to do that. And then once I answer that question, I'll open it up for any comments other people have about your question as well too. When I open it up for other comments or follow-up questions, make sure it actually pertains to the existing question on the table and that we're not going into a different arena. Okay, so I only want to take questions about what we've been talking about, not new things, which we would take as a separate question if you write that later. Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that. Somewhere tomorrow morning, probably around 9:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, I'll have I'll post a summary of what we talked about, as well as the time-stamped video, bubble stamped, I should say. There's little bubbles with the word that the chapter heading for what we're talking about in that section. But you'll find it in my Zoom room recording area, which you can find in the left navigation menu of at Lyme United. Okay, and so there you go. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and take a first question. And Colleen, you're starting to be the first question every time. I tell you what I'm going to do though. So that I make sure that everyone gets their questions answered. I'm going to take you as a first question this time, but for the last few weeks, you've been the first question. So what I'm going to do is in the future, I may not take your question right away so that we make time for other people that have questions as well too. Okay. But let's go ahead and take your question tonight. So Colleen has a question about Prolon fasting diet. I apologize in advance for the length. Let's see, I'm doing the Prolon 5-day fasting mimicking diet this week. Today is day 4. Congratulations. And unexpectedly, I'm absolutely loving it. I'd recommend it to everyone. Good, good. I think I made a mistake with one thing though, and could use some help navigating it. The Prolon team told me they can't guarantee it working if we add supplements because that hasn't been studied, and they especially discourage added fiber. So I decided to go ahead and stop everything I was taking for those 5 days except for 1 pill magnesium citrate, along with lots of water. Prior to this, I usually take magnesium citrate pills, 2 teaspoons plain magnesium, psyllium husk, etc., to manage constipation, which keeps me regular unless I eat nuts, which constipate me every time. Pearly time note to self, Prolon contains a good percentage of nuts. I should have factored that in when deciding what supplements to stop and taking. It's okay to live and learn, but now I need to decide what to do to navigate my air. During Prolon, I did just fine without any of the supplements for the first 2 days, but on day 3, I began having a challenge with constipation. My usual go-to if constipation occurs, despite what I'm already doing, is to add 1,000 of ascorbic acid vitamin C or prune juice, or to drink a cup of coffee if all else fails. I don't drink coffee at all times unless it can't be managed about once a day. The evening, day 3, I took 500 milligrams vitamin C and magnesium. And when trying to be conservative since Prolon, people had discouraged me from supplements. Today, day 4, the constipation was way worse. So I took my usual 1,000 milligrams of C, 2 magnesium, and a cup of coffee, but still having challenges to the hard rocks being difficult to pass. I went to get graphite. Let's see. Do you think I should add even more magnesium, vitamin C? Despite the question, I want to reiterate how I'm loving this fast. Okay, so let me tell you, so some things, so everyone, so make sure we're on the same page. Prolon is a company that offers a 5-day, what's called fasting mimicking diet. And it is a diet composed for 5 days, you eat. The first day is about 1,000 calories you eat, and then each of the next 4 days you eat They provide you food packets that provide you about 700 calories of food a day. What they provide you, they provide foods that have a good mix of amino acids, fats, and carbohydrates, all designed in a way to give you some nutrition, but to trick the body into thinking it's fasting. And so they're mixture of carbs, amino acids, and fatty acids are designed to not trick, or designed to not trick or to not trigger the nutrient sensing pathways, basically. Okay, all right. Now, their research is true. Their research has only been done on people that are not on supplements. I get that. And, to be honest with you, in the world of Lyme, that may be hard to stop taking all of your supplements while you're on this diet. So generally what my recommendations have been for people that are doing this fast is to avoid anything that might have a calorie attached to it, for the most part. Okay, so things that would have calories attached would be alcohol in your antibiotic tinctures, for instance. Could be glycerin in some of your antibiotic tinctures. Anything that is liposomal. Liposomal means it's a product that has had fat added to it to increase the absorption. So that would not be a good idea. Okay. But I disagree with them saying that you're not going to get benefits if you remain on non-calorie items. Now, the fiber, I can understand that. Maybe I can understand maybe some concerns on that. But to cut to the chase on this, I think if you're having constipation problems, I think you can dump as much vitamin C and magnesium in as you want. Okay. Secondly, in looking at their data, although they discourage you having caffeine, they do suggest that up to 8 ounces a day, no more than 8 ounces a day of caffeine is okay to take. They don't think that, although there may be some triggering of the nutrient sensing pathways, it's not enough to make a difference. Okay. Now, if this were to happen to you again, what you might want to consider doing, Colleen, because this would not affect anything that you're taking, would be to consider doing some enemas, actually. So you could do like a Fleet's enema. What happens with an enema, you put the saltwater solution up in your rear end. That act of expanding the bottom of your colon irritates the intestines to get all those muscles to start contracting and start pushing things through. So you could consider doing, if you get constipated, doing like a Fleet's enema. You could consider doing coffee enemas. The way that a coffee enema works is the tannic acids from coffee that you put into a coffee enema irritate the intestinal lining, causing muscular contraction and things to start moving through. Okay. So I personally have no problem, because I know about this diet. I have no problem seeing you take as much magnesium as you need to, or whopping amounts of vitamin C. I don't know that I would go to psyllium husk, although, you're on day 4, you've got most of your advantages out of it already. Okay. If you need to, you could, but you might want to look at, a temporary use of a Fleet's enema, or possibly of doing a coffee enema as well too. I think those would be okay to do. Okay. And then here in a minute, I'm going to see if Colleen has any follow up on this, but just briefly, why would you want to do a fasting mimicking diet? Okay. So there's a variety of reasons. One is when you have, as you age, but also as you have chronic illness in the oxidative state probably promotes aging. Sorry to say that, everyone, but and the mechanisms is that the oxidative state that you have in chronic infections triggers some of your cells to go into to stop dividing and become what are known as senescent cells. And senescent cells start pumping out tons of cytokine inflammatory chemicals. So it's in other ways a way of perpetuating all this inflammation in your body. Okay. The other big thing that can happen that can be addressed by fasting mimicking diet is as a result of having chronic illness, your cells may start building up garbage inside of them. When we fast or when we exercise, those two situations, what happens is the body starts recycling garbage inside of it, and the cells do. Okay. And that's a process called autophagy. So two big things you can get out of doing a fasting mimicking diet is you can trigger this autophagy to recycle and rehabilitate your cells. Number two, you can get rid of a lot of these senolytic or senescent cells. Okay. Other things that can happen, your immune system starts working better. You actually can lose some weight. You can decrease any problems with sugar resistance, and it's a good way of treating metabolic problems, even like elevated cholesterol levels. And finally, it's a good way of turning on your immune system. It actually boosts the immune system. Okay, there's some other benefits out of it too. I'll show you here in a minute where you can find out more information about this. I've written a good article about it. And you can actually purchase the product through me, and it actually, when you go through me, you ultimately buy through Prolon, but you get a pretty substantial discount using my link. And I'll show you how to do that here in a minute too. To get the most out of it, you would want to probably do it at least once a quarter. Prolon suggests that you even do it monthly 3 times to start, and then once a quarter. But when I look at it, I think that would be complicated for somebody living with tick-borne illnesses. And I think you'd get a great amount of help just doing it once every 3 months. And in fact, I don't have chronic tick-borne infections, but in my own life, as part of promoting longevity, I've actually started doing it quarterly myself, and it's very interesting when you get to that 4th and 5th day. Even though you're not having much, I went to a place of feeling kind of blissful and didn't feel driven by hunger at all. It took to about the 3rd or 4th day for me to reach that state, though. So anyhow, Colleen, do you have any follow-up points there at all?
Yes, I do. First of all, thank you so much for your honesty about being first question, and I will not do
Yeah.
that again.
No, I understand. I just want to make sure we give everyone a chance here. So yeah,
Yeah,
anyhow,
absolutely.
yeah.
And thank you for
Mhm.
taking the question. Um,
Sure.
and two things. The first one is a question. If I do a saltwater enema, would that deplete the good bacteria in my intestines?
Not, it's a good question, but I don't think if you're going to do it like a few times, like 3 days of doing the fast, that it's going to make much of a difference, actually. You're probably not washing out the good bacteria in any sufficient amounts to cause disturbances. I think you'd be okay with that.
Okay, great. And then the last thing is just I agree with you about the blissful state. Like used to have so many cravings and I have zero cravings at this moment. I'm
Yeah.
like really enjoying the food, even small amounts, and it's just I'm thrilled and I'm going to be repeating it again and again. And thank you for your advice with this. I appreciate it.
Oh, good, good. Thank you for sharing your experience with everyone here too. I
Yeah.
know that, this video gets watched by a lot of people tomorrow, right? So I know that a lot of our members are going to be interested in your feedback on this as well too.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. What I want to do, thank you. Good luck to you, Colleen. Let me I'm going to do a screen share here, everyone, because I want to show you the resources on this, because I know many of you may still have further questions. So get out of that. Okay. So first of all, I do have an article at my information site, and let's see, I'll just do fasting here. So there's an article I wrote about fasting mimicking diet and what are the major benefits that you would get that might help you with chronic Lyme disease and even mold toxicity. All right, so that's this article here. All right, and then through this article, you can click this Start Now button, but where that actually brings you to is my Prolon diet page at Marty Ross MD Supplements, which is here. All right. And here again, I re-describe the diet so you can see what the benefits are, what you're doing with it. But if you click this Shop Prolon 5-day, it literally brings you over to Prolon's website using my code, which you can kind of see up here in the URL, and you get a discount if you purchase doing it that way. Okay, so let me go back here, stop share. Anyhow, all right, good. So let's go ahead and move on here. So hi, Sandra. Sandra says, I have 3Bs. Bart is causing joint problems. Is it okay for me to take glucosamine and collagen? Or would those items just give Bart something to eat? Any other ideas or joint hypermobility with Bart? All right. So, you know, I am not so sure that Bartonella does cartilage destruction. I just don't know. I do think and know that Borrelia does. So Borrelia does. Borrelia basically likes to do anything it can to dig itself into tissues to get away from oxygen. All right. So in joints specifically, Borrelia, which is Lyme, releases a bunch of enzymes so that it can that break apart cartilage. And so that's why sometimes people get osteoarthritic changes when they have Borrelia. Okay. Not everyone, but some people can. Bartonella, on the other hand, can get into the joints, but it can give you more of an inflammatory changes, not I'm not so sure that it actually gives you cartilage destruction. All right. Now, that's not to say that, as part of living life, you haven't done some, or even maybe if you have Borrelia with this, that you might have some injury to the cartilage or breakdown of the cartilage too. And so I don't, the issue is, so it's okay to take supplements to rebuild that cartilage. So either chondroitin sulfate or glucosamine sulfate may be helpful. They're not going to feed the germs per se because the germs aren't breaking down Borrelia specifically. It's not breaking down cartilage to eat it, to have something to nourish itself with. It's breaking it down so it can bury itself far away from oxygen, basically. Okay. All right. So I would see no problem with you going ahead and using joint support supplements. All right. And then in terms of hypermobility, if I don't know if Athena is here tonight. But yeah, I'm probably gonna Athena. I know we'll probably have some comments here, and I always appreciate her comments because Athena is our in-house expert on hypermobility, basically. Hi, Athena. And so basically, I'm just going to give you some background, but then I want to ask Athena if she has some comments here too. So the thing about having chronic infections, whether it's Borrelia, Bartonella, Babesia, is it can lead to laxity of your joints and the connective tissues around the joints. And so that would be called hypermobility. All right. Now, some of us have some genetic predispositions towards that, especially in a condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, for instance. There may be a setup that is separate from having tick-borne infections, but tick-borne infections can either make that setup worse or they can even outright cause it. Okay. So you want to get your whatever your thing is infection under control that may be hurting your connective tissues. All right. So that would be, kill your Bartonella, kill your Borrelia, kill your Babesia. Okay. Secondly, when you have these tick-borne infections, they can also trigger a lot of mast cell activation. So one of the hallmarks that is useful in helping with lax joints would be to try to stabilize your mast cells. Quercetin is an option. Sometimes low-dose naltrexone may give some benefit here as well as also help you with the pain. Another thing to keep in mind would be to do maybe even work with a physical therapist that can help with exercises to strengthen the muscles and the tissues around your joints. And then sometimes with really lax joints, sometimes you just need to use braces temporarily for a period of time to stabilize things too. And that's my quick rundown. Athena, I know, probably has a lot more to say. So Athena, can I have you jump in here?
Sure. Sorry, it's a sick day, so you're going to regret me asking me to turn on my camera. But I think that's actually amazing that the way you summarized everything, because there are so many topics to cover off. The only small things I would add is that with EDS patients, ketotifen seems to be a better mast cell stabilizer for some, like just like LDN, and that's not based on literature; it's based on case reports. That some EDS patients seem to do better on working up to a higher dose, titrating very slowly.
Okay.
But like you, I'm a huge fan of the quercetin, LDN if it's
Yeah.
a hit, and Neuroprotect,
Yeah.
which you introduced me to and is a staple.
Yeah.
So the inflammatory cytokine piece, I think, is like critical as we manage not just the herxes, but the whole infectious piece. And I just want to say about Bartonella, no one really knows, although a lot of clinicians tend to link Bartonella specifically with laxity, like you talked about. So there is a lot of discussion surrounding that, but I want to say that the inflammatory piece related to Borrelia has also been linked, and the inflammatory piece related to COVID is actually, there's now a published study on it and how they're resolved. Yeah,
that's a good point.
And I really like that you said about the brace. The brace is so complicated because the hard brace is actually a test. And sometimes it can injure people, but other times it's a really good test to see if there's a relief of symptoms based on a very gentle lifting of the area because there's a compression. But the brace it should be properly fitted by someone like the Miami J or the Aspen, and good luck trying to find someone to fit it, right? Like you need, I want to say, like a trained nurse or someone to try to actually fit it.
Well, just a quick question on this is for my edification as well, to my education. So I would think maybe so here in the States, we have what are called PMR doctors, physical medicine or rehabilitative medicine, are called physiatrists. They're like the medical physical therapist, if you will. So I can imagine they might be able to help, but also some physical therapists, I think, might be able to help with some of this as well, too, if you can find somebody that has some expertise in the area. Are those two ideas correct?
Those two ideas are correct, assuming that they understand. I would say there's a specialized cohort, like an osteopath, that kind of tailored to patients who have craniocervical junction injury. That is, they're not going to tell you to start stretching your neck from side to side. They're like the chiropractors that should not be torquing your neck ever. I have a friend that actually has vascular issues, and he always says my chiropractor torques my neck, but he keeps getting worse. So it's a bad story to have any kind of thrusting. In fact, really the only treatments that should be done with people who have any kind of laxity, particularly EDS patients and other, not just EDS patients, infectious patients that are starting to have mobility issues, certain symptoms like going up the stairs and tachycardia, difficulty with mobility in general and not knowing why. A lot of people have this issue, but they don't know they have it, and they may never be imaged.
Sure.
Yeah. So like I think you just did a great job summarizing a very complicated topic and keeping inflammation low the entire time, because what we know, that vicious circle we talked about, the inflammation actually triggers that stretching of the ligaments. But once the ligaments are stretched and you continue to overstretch them, let's say, for example, with your phone, this is not a phone, but bending your head forward in flexion is a huge no-no, huge no-no.
Okay.
So keep your head out of flexion and don't be bending over for anyone who has craniocervical issues. So bending over to pick things up, you'll feel it when you bend over. And that's another indicator. Yeah. So to answer your question, yes, PT, osteopaths, but only specialized training, and chiropractors as well. They all fit into that category. Yeah.
Okay. As long as the chiropractor that's not cracking you.
No thrusting.
Right. Okay. Got it.
So that means, for example, West Coast Canada, we have a guy, I still don't understand what he does because I try to ask him, I've interviewed him many times, and he says that he restabilizes by pushing on the musculature at the bottom because he doesn't have access to the atlas. But the real chiropractors that should be aligning at the top, if you have this issue at the atlas, are the ones that use vectors and measurement through an upright MRI, and there are very few of those in the States.
Okay.
So it's called Atlas Orthogonal. Atlas Orthogonal.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So everyone, here in a minute, I just want to let you know, Athena actually has really a lot of expertise in this area. And she, I don't know, maybe 4 months ago, actually did one of our member-driven webinars and held a session. And so I'll show you here in a minute the recording of that if you want to go look at a lot of more detail that we just covered here, but give you good background on this as well too. So Athena, I'll show everyone the recording from that session here in a minute. So does Sandra, did you have any other questions then, or did we give you enough to work with there?
Thank you for the information. That does help. Yes.
Okay, good. Does anyone else have a follow-up to this before I show you where to find Athena's resource here? All right, let me do a quick screen share and I'll show you. All right, so if we go to Lyme United, and to our, so first of all, just wanted to show you this. It's empty right now. No one's hosting it yet, but if any member ever wants to host their own event, I'll help you with that. And that's what Athena did. And she did it as part of our forum here called Unity's Take Charge. Okay. All right. But I put the recording for that event here in our Zoom event recordings page. And it's this one, right? It's the second one from the bottom here. It's this recording of Athena, and you can watch it there for the whole presentation. Okay. And Athena, again, thank you for having done that. That was a really good event.
It's my pleasure. I just want to say the EDS community has the greatest resources. In fact, they just held a session where they invited top people through the US, including neurosurgeons, neurologists. They had it on Sunday. And if you want, I can link it in if we set up a section for that. And the neurovascular issues related to this problem, which is really quite common for a lot of us. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. It's good to see you upright today, too.
A little bit. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Athena. All right. Let's see. Let's move on here. All right. Hello, David. David wants to know, what is SOT treatment for Lyme? Why LMD wants me to try a treatment? I don't understand how it'd be a good treatment for BB. What about BEMP-BC by using this treatment? Okay. So I have written a whole article about this. I just want to let you know, and I'll show you that to you in a minute here. But what I do not support SOT. I'm just going to start by saying that to begin with. Okay. So what SOT stands for, those letters stand for something called supportive oligonucleotide therapy. All right. And you're probably thinking, well, what does that mean? So basically what you do, what the idea with SOT is that you, somebody gets a sample of your blood, a company gets a sample of your blood, and they do a DNA profile of your germs, and they then develop a package of RNA that blocks the ability of the germ's DNA to reproduce itself and make proteins involved in reproduction of the germ, basically. Okay, so in your cells, so the DNA is inside the nucleus, the center of a cell. That DNA codes for RNA, and RNA carries a message out into the cell, the middle of your cell. And out there, the RNA binds, becomes part of something called a ribosome. And a ribosome with RNA, the blueprint of RNA, is where proteins are made. All right. So the blueprint of your DNA, and in this case, a germ's DNA, is copied into RNA. RNA carries that blueprint out into the middle of the cell, and then it joins the factory. And in the factory, the foreman and all the workers interpret the RNA, and then they produce proteins involved in replication of the germs. All right. What SOT does is it takes and makes a blocking RNA that will attach to these RNAs and make it so that the ribosome cannot read the RNA. All right. And so they're made up of what are called the parts that DNA and RNA are made up of what are called nucleotides. And there's a nucleotide sequence that is put together by the lab that will block the germ's RNA, basically, and try to block these ribosomes from reproducing the germ. All right, now, that all sounds great. That really sounds good. All right. I want to let you know that here in the States, there are a number of drugs that have been developed to do this for other infections, but they went through a rigorous process of approval by the Food and Drug Administration, because it's really giving you a drug. They're giving genetic material to somebody, right? And in that, they did approve a number of drugs to do it, but they disapproved a lot because there are harmful side effects. And so one problem I have with SOT and the way it's being practiced right now is the company that's making this SOT is a Greek company called RGCCC. They haven't done any adequate studies to prove that this stuff is safe, number one. Okay. Number two, in particular, it's really difficult for me to believe that in tick-borne infections that they're actually getting adequate samples to figure out what the RNA should be, right? So for instance, one of the things they're having when you try to make a copy of the DNA of a germ, or to see if you have the DNA in you of a germ, the process of doing that is something called PCR testing. And PCR testing, we know, will miss Lyme, will only find Lyme if it's in you 30% of the time. And yet, this lab that's using that PCR method to replicate the DNA of the germ so that they can then make copies of RNA and all that stuff, they're relying on a PCR method to go ahead and reproduce the germs from your blood. So sometimes when they're doing this treatment, they'll tell a person, well, we didn't find any of the germ in you anymore, and by PCR, and therefore we think we cured you. No, they may have just missed it 70% of the time. We can also probably make the same comments about Bartonella and Babesia. So when a blood sample is sent over to this company and they send back a sample, I'm suspicious what the hell they're sending back, because I know that the testing for these germs by using PCR method is not the most accurate. Okay, so I have questions about quality. Number two, RNA that they send back, they're injecting it in you, and they're injecting it in you in some kind of a preparation that's supposedly supposed to get through the blood and get absorbed into the cells. But our blood is full of enzymes that's designed to break down foreign RNA. So how do we know this shit even gets into your blood? Because we don't have studies that show that it does. All right, and then the other big thing is there's no adequate studies that have been done. The company that makes this did do a very, very small study where through a bunch of, I'll call it statistical hocus pocus, they tried to show that there was benefit, all right? But when you really look at the study, it's a horrible study, and I don't think it showed anything, okay? Now, I will admit there are people that do these treatments that claim benefit. And I want to make everyone aware, maybe there are some people that get benefit. The question of benefit I'm wondering about, though, is the benefit more of a placebo healing effect rather than it is actually the SOT that cost you $5,000 a pop making the benefit? Okay, all right. And the reason I make that suggestion to people to think about is if we were to take any drug that is approved by the FDA, and they do what are called double-blind studies where they take a drug, they see what it does, and then they take another group of people that don't know what they're getting. I'm sorry, they do a study where some people get the drug, some people don't know what they're getting, and they're all blinded. They don't know what they're getting, okay? None of these people do. And they compare the results in the end of people that got the drug and those that didn't. Of all drugs, around 35 to 40% of people that are on a placebo get the same benefit as the people that took the drug, all right? And they didn't take anything. So I know that there are a number of members in our community that have done SOT that do claim benefit. I'm not going to quibble with that. What I question is, was it really the genetic material that did that benefit for you? Okay, all right. The other thing I want to make you aware of is ILADS at its annual meeting in November, much to my chagrin, had a whole training session where RGCCC came in and trained doctors to do this. And so I'm very disappointed in ILADS because normally ILADS errs towards the side of having science-based treatments. Doesn't mean science proven, because Lyme disease doesn't have a lot of good science behind it, but science-based. And I was just personally appalled that they actually let this company in to do a day training over something that I just don't think has any science and probably has a lot of reasons to believe it doesn't work. Okay, so yeah, that's my take on SOT. I know there may be some people here that have had SOT and may disagree with me on that, but I want to explain why I have that opinion of it as well too. Okay, any comments from anyone here? Or actually, first of all, David, do you have any comment there? Does anyone else have a comment at all? All
Dr.
right.
Marty?
Yeah.
Do you hear me? It's Jackie.
Yes. Hi, Jackie.
Oh, okay. I don't know if you see him. I'm trying to avoid the camera. I don't want to jump the line. I'm so sorry. I don't know how to submit my question.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what, Jackie, I see you here. I see
Oh, you
your
do?
question. Yeah, I got it there. I will make sure I get to it.
Okay.
I'll have others before you, but yeah,
Okay.
I will
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
to
Of
it tonight.
course. I'm so sorry. I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
And what I'll do, I see you're struggling. I'll just open up my camera here in a minute and ask you directly what it is. Okay.
Thank you so much. I love
All
this
right. No
so
problem.
far. It's great.
Good, good, good. Thanks, Jackie. All right. So I'm going to do, so those of you that want to see, that are maybe interested in SOT, again, take a look at my online Lyme guide, and then here's my article, okay? And I review probably in a little more understandable way what I was just saying about SOT here, okay? All right, let's see here. Hello, Jenny. Let's see, I've been diagnosed with toxic mold colonization, Bartonella, probable Lyme. These have manifested in severe anemia. Red cell, let's see, non-regenerative, non-hemolytic red cells are being made but are not maturing and leaving the bone marrow. Mycophenolic acid levels are extremely high. Things improved when it decreased, but antifungal stopped. I've also had 42 transfusions in 2 years. Not sure if cellular debris might be contributing. Any thoughts? Wow. I will tell you, I don't know that I'm going to have a lot of good thoughts for you. So again, you know, I can speak from experience, and my experience has been I managed chronic Lyme disease, tick-borne illnesses, and mold toxicity for over 20 years, or nearly 20 years, out of my Seattle practice, and treated thousands of people. That's my experience. Okay, I haven't seen anyone in my practice with you know, chronic tick-borne infections and mold toxicity that developed severe anemia as a result of the chronic illness. Okay, now I will tell you there is a phenomenon known as anemia of chronic disease. There is a phenomenon of that, right? And generally, how you get to that point is ultimately you get sent over to a hematologist. I suppose they probably did. They do bone marrow biopsies and they try to look in your bone marrow and find out what's happening with your red blood cell factory. We do know that in general, if it is chronic illness related, getting the chronic illness under control often can do a lot to get the bone marrow to turn on and start working correctly. As to why your combination of mycophenolic acid and the infections you're having specifically are doing this to you, I'm not sure, but it would still be the same hallmarks that I talk about, which is, you know, get your germ load down and get your, you know, pull the toxins out of you with binders. And if you happen to be colonized, using antifungals for that, it'd be the same principles. But beyond that, I don't have anything specific for this type of situation for you. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks for the question, though, Jenny. Hello, Sin. Good to see you again. Let's see. What do I say to doctors that tell me there's no science indicating chronic Lyme exists? Is there science I can refer them to? I've been working with LMDs for 4 years with no improvement, so I don't have much ammunition to respond, and I'm not sure how to proceed. All right, so that's a complicated topic. Yes, there is science. It would be great if one of my colleagues did a whole compilation of it. The closest that I think a resource that I could share with you that you might want to grab, because I think it's a pretty good book actually. It's a book. And it's a book by a physician named Brian Fallon, Brian, and then Fallon, Fallon, MD. He is a psychiatrist that runs the Columbia University Lyme Center. And he's a research scientist, but also a practicing physician as well, too. And his book is called Conquering the Divide. I think that's what it's called. I'll show it to you here in a minute. But what he does is he does review the science. He himself comes down in the middle, saying that he believes that short-term treatment is not effective, long-term treatment is what's needed, but he doesn't believe in more than a few months of treatment. Okay, but I just want you to know that. But his book still has the science in it that says, yeah, this is probably a chronic infection. And he goes through the reasons why you can say that and has the science to back it up in there as well too. Okay, all right. And so I'll show it to you here. We can go to Amazon together. Let's see here. Oh, here we are. Oh no, what am I doing? Amazon. Amazon. Okay, so let's see, Brian Fallon. This is his book. It's called Conquering Lyme Disease, Science Bridges the Great Divide. I think it's a good resource, okay? Let me get out of here. Okay, hold on everyone. I'm gonna just mute myself for a second. I've got some people that have shown up that are working on a drywall for me, and I just need to say a brief thing to them. Just a second here. There we go. I'm back again, everyone. So I'm having some drywall work done here, and the people that are doing it are all Spanish speaking, and I speak very broken Spanish, so it's always interesting. So usually the way we communicate is I pull out my Google Translator and type in what I want, and then they do the same. So I was hoping, I just needed to wave at them and let them know I was in the room here, and they're out there working, and hopefully we don't have to have any complex communication here. So yeah. All right. So if you hear, the reason I'm using these headphones tonight is it tends not to pick up all the background noise as much. So, but I apologize if you're hearing a bunch of sanding going through right now. So anyhow, okay. So let's do.
Hey, Marty?
Oh yeah, Sand, go ahead.
I noticed the Brian Fallon's book was written and published in 2019.
Yeah.
Has there been anything significant since then?
You know, not really, because a lot of the case that he makes are the recent science. He does cover the science that shows that there's persisters. He does cover science that shows when there's a variety of studies that have been done in animals and actually some in humans too, that show in people that take standard treatments of antibiotics that are supposedly cured, you then take blood from those individuals and you inject it into another rat or another human, and they wind up being, or you take I forget how they do it. They're cross injection studies where you take somebody that's supposedly cured, and then you re-inject that into a healthy rat, for instance, and they wind up coming down with the infection. So it's a way of showing that the germs are still there. Okay. I'm getting the nuances of how those studies are done, but they're cross-infecting studies on humans and in rats that are supposedly cured. But there's a number of studies in there to suggest that he does build, even though it's 2019, it's a good enough resource to show all that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, let's see here. Thanks for the question, Sin. Okay, Rachel Ann, let's see. I'm treating Lyme, Bart, mold, and mast cell. I have been having vision issues off and on. Some days lately, my vision is so distorted, especially my distance, that I am wearing glasses and contacts make it worse. The last couple of days, I have been seeing better without my bifocals and just using a reader for close small text. Do you have any ideas what might be going on? So not entirely, but let me just make a few comments. So when you come into vision, there's a few things that control it. One is your optic nerve, the nerve that feeds the back of your eyeball that transmits all that signal, okay? All that what your retina is seeing basically, right? But in addition, to be able to see things, your lens has to be held by the muscles in the eye in the right position. And so it becomes a neurologic and muscle problem of how the lens is controlled as well too. keep in mind that Bartonella and Borrelia can infect either your optic nerve, or they can infect the muscles or the nerves that make the lens work correctly. And in addition, tick-borne infections can even infect the visual centers in the back of your brain. All right, so there's many places that you can wind up running into trouble here. To get this looked at, what you need is an ophthalmologist, an MD, to at least do some good eye exams on you and see if they see any problems with the optic nerve, and to see if they see any problems with how your lens and your retina are looking at this point. Okay, that's the starting point. Okay, now often they're not going to see anything. All right, I just be candid about that. And then, so what I have found then beneficial in those situations is to do eye training, and there are optometrists that specialize in visual retraining or visual rehab work. It's a bunch of eye exercises that you actually do that help reprogram your brain to be able to see things better and differently, basically. Okay, and it tends to be, visual training tends to be done by optometrist. But to get your eye evaluated, I would start with an ophthalmologist. Okay, ophthalmologist is the MD. Optometrist would be an OD, basically. That's kind of how I go about doing it in my practice. All right. Actually, let me take that back. The OD that I used to use in Seattle actually did very thorough eye exams as well, too. She was actually skilled at that. So let me take that. You could go with an OD, and she happened to do visual retraining as part of her practice as well, too. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, does that answer things for you there, Rachel Ann? Yeah, so and obviously,
yes,
yeah, and under it all, I mean, still keep treating your infections. There's something, obviously, the infections are the ultimate cause, but there is eye rehab work you can do and brain retraining that you can do to help with that too. Okay.
Yeah, I've been having a lot of, and I wrote in a lot of dizziness where I'm dizzy and brain fog and loopy. And I thought maybe it was the LDN that I just started,
Yeah.
but I haven't taken it for a couple days now, and I'm still like that. If that's connected to the vision or
It's hard
die
to
off
say.
or
So, so the LDN, I have seen rarely give people dizziness or confusion. Usually what I find with that is you can drop it down to a dose that people can tolerate, but rarely a person can't. Okay. But usually I see that when I stop LDN to try to see if it's a problem, it can sometimes take even up to a week before everything reverses. I have seen that in my practice. So some of that, what you're describing, could still be LDN, could be LDN related at this point. Do you have a Lyme literate doctor you're working with?
I do. I have pretty good doctor.
Yeah, you might want to reach out to them to see if they might even get you in for an evaluation, just to see if they can make some sense out of this too. Because I would, with what you described, I usually like to get my people in to see them, to physically examine them, to see if I can learn anything that way too.
Yeah, I think, I've asked her before, and I think she's suspects the mold, or mold treatment as the primary culprit.
Yeah. But just keep her in the loop. That's the main thing.
For
All
sure.
right.
Thank you
Good luck.
much.
Yeah, good luck.
Thanks.
Does anyone else have a comment about that? All right, let's go on. Jackie, it's your turn. All right, so Jackie, I know you're having a hard time figuring out how to use our forum here. So anyhow, generally what you can do is just so you know, in the future, you can just write your question in the chat box, just like you started to write here. Hi, can someone please tell me how to submit a question? You literally just, where you wrote that, that's where you'd write your question, okay? But anyhow, so tell me, I know that you wrote through Lyme United that your mom, I believe, is having some difficulties with a herx, I think, at this point. So why don't we just go ahead and why don't you talk me through what your question is here, Jackie, if you turn your microphone on there. Jackie, are you still there? Uh-oh, it looks like you're having a hard time
I'm
turning
so
the mic. There you go.
sorry. No,
Got it. Now we got
I'm
it.
so new at
Technical
this.
difficulties. Technical difficulties. Yeah.
Okay. I want
Yeah.
to say,
So how, yeah, go ahead.
very quickly, I'm so bashful. So I'm doing my cat's Benjo Amberly. I want to say hello to everybody on here. And I just want to thank you so much, Dr. Marty. You have no idea how much your advice has helped me tremendously in the past. Like I'm so grateful to you. I hope to meet you one day. And it's weird because
You're
you're looking at
welcome,
my
Jackie.
cats, but that's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And I'm sorry I cut in before. I was totally not, I'm
You're
totally
okay.
figuring this out. Okay.
Don't worry. Don't
All
worry.
right.
Yeah.
Thank you. So basically the questions, and of course, so I struggle a lot neurologically. Next time I'll put on my face. I don't even know what I look like. So I will have trouble with articulation. I'm going to try not to waste too much time, but all the notes I would have, I can't get to. So basically, I've had Lyme for over 30 years, and my mom has had it, I assume, just from where we lived, either the same time or 50 years, because, we're both in central New Jersey, of course.
Okay.
So Mom never knew she had Lyme until after I was diagnosed, and I encouraged her to get diagnosed. Before that, her
Okay.
symptoms were just, she was really well, functioning really well, working full time and all that, but
Sure.
significant lightheadedness on occasion, passing out a few times, migraines, fatigue, this and that. But so now she had a head injury, which she wrote to you about, and I tell people it doesn't matter how easy something is, or I can't even remember my expression, but the point is nothing gets done. So we haven't ordered the vitamins. And so the question for her is, she went back and did screenshots. I know it was about repairing the cells in the area of the brain. You talked about that. So she's going to order those, but we have to be in a hurry because she has a wound that isn't healing and took
a wound that, so you're going to be looking at some of the supplements that I wrote about to help with your thinking and brain repair.
well,
But in addition,
definitely. Yeah,
in
exactly.
addition, you're saying she's got a non-healing, like where is this
Yeah.
wound that's not healing?
Yeah. Well, she has a wound on her hand. So she was taking an antibiotic and then switched to doxycycline because the first didn't work. And she started herxing a few days in. So I'll tell you what symptoms real quick, but she's going to have to take another 2 weeks. So I'm like, we got to get your help. We got to get your supplements.
Right.
Because she's next to me, mad at me. It's not her fault. But like her seizures are at night. She doesn't convulse.
Hold on. It looks
injury.
Let's see. Hold on a minute. Bear with me. I think I have to change my microphone. I think I
have to get to it. I'm too.
Bear with me, man. I got to do something different. Looks like I'm losing my.
We can make it brighter and see them.
We're gonna go back to.
I'm afraid.
So
It's been so
go over to that, and now I got to get. Okay, can you hear me? Okay.
I do.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
My.
Okay.
I didn't realize my AirPods just went. So I here. So you guys may hear a little bit more of my sanding going on in my walls right now.
No, not at all. It's cool.
All right, so
I do the same thing, by the way, with this Spanish. So basically, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, so she's gonna go back on Doxy, and her symptoms are neurological.
Okay.
So like late at night, she has been like screaming at me and stuff like that because it was seizures. She doesn't convulse. So the Lyme is in that area of the brain. And then also a very bad short-term memory. So, and last night she had a stronger seizure. So like what we can get, and we're going to try to expedite it to not herx, I guess is the main, besides all the other things you recommended, and curcumin, I know, but.
Yeah, so there's two things I would. So what I think is happening, and I think you know this, is that the doxycycline they're using for her skin infection happens to also be killing spirochetes from the Lyme germ. Okay, I suspect that's what's happening.
Yeah.
And so as a result of that, her immune system is seeing these dead bug parts and is making more inflammation chemicals called cytokines. All right. as you know, and everyone here knows, it's cytokines that your immune system makes when you have tick-borne infections that give you most Lyme symptoms. And so therefore you're going to see a flare in most of her symptoms now because she's making more cytokines. So there's two things I would suggest doing as quickly as you can. One is, given the severity of what she's having, I would use that curcumin phytosome that I recommend by Thorne. And the reason I like that curcumin phytosome product is it is a liposomal product which increases the curcumin absorption. Curcumin, which is a major component of turmeric, if you just take it straight, or if you like put a bunch of turmeric in your food and take it straight, it's horribly absorbed. So you need to make sure you're using a supplement that's designed for absorption, and the curcumin phytosome, which is liposomal curcumin, is. The Thorne product is a 500 milligram pill. I would do 2 pills 3 times a day. Normally, I would have a person do 1 pill 3 times a day, but given the seizures and the severity of this, I probably would wind up going 2 pills 3 times a day. Okay. Number 2. So what I would also then add in liposomal glutathione. And so the glutathione is a very strong antioxidant, and its role in blocking a Herx reaction, number 1, is to get your body to detox out the toxins being released by these DEG germs, because those toxins trigger more cytokines. But the second thing that it does is it is, as a powerful antioxidant, it blocks oxidation messages that tell white blood cells to make cytokines. Okay, so effectively, curcumin is inside your white blood cell factory making cytokines, and it blocks the production line. That's what curcumin does. Okay, and standing outside the factory door, glutathione's out there swatting down all the messages that are telling those white blood cells to make cytokines. All right. And normally, in most situations, I have a person take a teaspoon 1 time a day of that, but when herxing is bad, I like to increase that up to 1 teaspoon twice a day. The reason I recommend the Trifortify liposomal glutathione by Research Nutritionals is they've got science showing that when you take it, your levels of glutathione intracellularly go up 40%. All right, so their preparation results in good absorption, because like curcumin, glutathione is not well absorbed out of the gut either. All right, so you've got to have a good preparation that will get it absorbed. So those are 2 things I would recommend. And Jackie, you can get them both from my store. If you were to order it, you could get you could pay for it for overnight shipping. And with USPS these days,
Yeah, I'm going to.
Yeah, that usually means 2 days though, because the trouble is if you order it tomorrow, for instance, my people will process it by 2 o'clock and get it over to the postal service. That time, then it's another day to get to you still. So there's nothing like, there's truly not next day. Next day means from the time we get it to them, basically. Okay.
So
Wait. So yeah, no, I got it. We're gonna get in an email. We'll get this in an email. Is that correct? Tomorrow or soon?
We'll get what in an email?
Like I wasn't able to take notes. I can't multitask. That's gone.
Jackie?
What? Oh, do you hear me? Don't tell me it went. It's okay. I got it, Mom. It's already in the cart.
I'm not hearing you, Jackie.
Oh no. Hold on. I'll try to fix it. What is going on?
Jackie, so if you can hear me, I'm just going to say, so I don't, Jackie,
I can hear Jackie.
Okay.
Do you hear me? Somebody
I
hears
can
me?
hear Jackie.
Yeah, I hear
Oh,
you.
Dr.
Okay.
Marty, it's you. It's all you.
Oh, it might be. Hey,
No,
Jackie, I don't send out an email after these
No, that's
discussions.
okay. I already have them in the cart, actually.
Okay.
So that's fine. My mom was asking, but I already have it. So I want to let you know, please, and thanks everybody else, because I have another important question. So, that worked for me wonderfully. The advice with the curcumin years ago, you told me to double it because I had a grand mal from doxycycline, and I had to take it again 2 years later, and it worked wonderfully. Good. So the question for myself is, please, I have the situation where I've put it off way too long because I was scared of herxing. And I don't convulse, but I get seizures. You know, obviously there's so many different types and symptoms. My symptoms are absolutely maddening. They're so rare, I swear I would volunteer for some kind of study, but I won't waste time with that, but they're crazy. It's terrible, honestly. I know it could be worse, but anyway, that's what I keep telling myself. I cannot take seizure drugs at this point. So my doctor, I've been off for over a year. She said either from very low vitamin, sorry for trouble with words. My vitamin D has been very low for so many years, or having, neurological Lyme plus the co-infections for so many years. Then COVID. I think possibly the vaccine. I'm not trying to be conspiratorial, but I actually saw on a website just said vaccines. I can't take seizure drugs. So she told me to go to a neuroimmunologist, and they kept canceling me. It didn't work out. I just basically would love to treat it with you or take supplements from you to strengthen my neurological immune system, because I have to get past my seizures in my head to even tackle the 30 years of Lyme that I've had. And like my life is nowhere. I'm getting nowhere. I can't cope with these symptoms. But that being said, last part of my question is, I took glutathione years ago, but it was not a company recommended because I was in a terrible hurry and couldn't wait for shipping. And I called just to ask if it was vegan, and the owner of the company got on the phone, and he said, if your Lyme is really advanced, you might herx. And I ended up getting 103. My arms were shaking like Frankenstein. So I know I can tolerate curcumin. I just would like your advice, please, what I can do.
Yeah. So let me just give you some general comments, and I want to be clear. I can't be your physician in this kind of a
No,
form.
just advice,
I can
suggestions.
just give you some things to consider and maybe talk with your doctors about too. Okay. And I'm
Of
sorry for
course.
the situation that you're in here too. So,
Thank you.
so first of all, a follow-up question. Have they seen the seizures on EEG, or does it not record?
Oh, no, very much. Like all the way back in 2017 after the grand mal seizure,
Yeah.
she was very new. She was like a Doogie Howser doctor. She said 83 within 48 hours, all while falling asleep on while I was awake. Then she was about to take my license and everything. And then she was like, oh, it can't be. So I was just like, okay. But since then they've progressed, and I have many types.
So no, I want to be clear. They actually do see it on the EEG, though. It does record.
Yeah, for like
Okay.
at least 8
Okay,
years.
so the reason I wanted to say that is what I have found is there are often with people with tick-borne infections, there can be seizure-like activity that doesn't record on the EEG. And when I see that, I'm often thinking Bartonella, just so you know. Okay, Bartonella can
Yeah, I
give you
have
that
that.
kind of a pattern. But when I see people with severe neurologic manifestations of tick-borne infections, I'm thinking they likely have two infections. I'm thinking they likely have Bartonella, even if you test negative, and they likely have Borrelia as well too. Okay, all right. So I just want to put that on the table. So ultimately, you're going to want to do things to be able to try to lower your germ load. I understand though that doing that may trigger more Herx reaction and make your seizures worse, right? Um, so
That's okay. I
yeah,
just need to heal.
yeah. So what I would consider doing, and this would be a way of stepping into treatment without clobbering yourself. Okay, these are some thoughts. Number one, I would, get on the glutathione twice a day, like I just said about your mom. I would be on your curcumin, 1,000 milligrams 3 times a day as well too. And you might even do that before you start germ killers. Okay. All right. Number two, I would probably go herbal antibiotics because you have a chance of controlling your dose in a way that will tend to be less triggering for seizures, meaning you can gradually build up versus when you do prescription antibiotics, you're just taking a pill that's a whole pill, right? It's loaded with stuff right away, all right? There are no studies that tell us that herbal antibiotics cross the blood-brain barrier. However, I have seen great results using these on people with neurologic illness, so I have to believe they do cross the blood-brain barrier. All right. All right. So a treatment I would want to see, given that it's seizures, I would want to consider treating for both Bartonella and Borrelia at the same time. And I think ultimately, if you could work up to it, I'd get you on 3 antibiotic herbs, and those would be Cryptolepis, Japanese knotweed, and a pill called liposomal cinnamon clove and oregano essentials. Okay. Now, any one of those three things I just mentioned, kills Lyme, kills Bartonella, and also kills growing and hibernating forms of the germs. All right, any of the three. I have just found better results using all three together. The cinnamon clove oregano, in addition to killing Lyme and Bartonella, has another advantage in that it can strip biofilms away from Bartonella that blocks treatment as well too. Okay, all right. So where I would start, given how reactive your seizures can be, I'd probably start with the Japanese knotweed first, because of all the three things, it's the weaker one. Doesn't mean it's not good. It's just the weaker one. You're not going to clobber yourself as hard. Okay. And normally I would start a person at, I would work up to 30 drops twice a day. And I would do that in your situation. I'd probably start at 5 drops twice a day. If you're not reacting to that every day, you can increase by 1 drop per dose until you reach 30 drops twice a day. All right. And gauge how rapidly you go up by how is your body handling it, how's your seizures handling it. All right. Okay. But I wouldn't start that until you're on the curcumin and the glutathione for a good, probably a week at least, to kind of damp things down. Okay. All right. Once you're on the cryptolepis or the Japanese knotweed, then I would proceed to doing the cryptolepis next. And for Bartonella and Lyme, the dosing I try to work people up to is a half teaspoon, which is 2.5 milliliters, 3 times a day. If I'm using it to treat Babesia, which it can do too, I work up to 5 milliliters 3 times a day. So if you read my stuff and you see 5 milliliters 3 times a day, that doesn't apply to you because we're using it for Bartonella, Borrelia. So you want to work up to 2.5 milliliters 3 times a day on that. And you might start by doing it as an eighth of a teaspoon 3 times a day. See how I tolerate then, and then go up to a quarter teaspoon. And as you can, gradually work up to a half teaspoon 3 times a day. Okay. And then when you're stable on that, then you want to proceed to adding 1 capsule of the cinnamon clove oregano in once a day. And after you're stable on that, then you go up to 1 capsule twice a day. All right. So I would build up very slowly, but make sure that you have really damped down as much of the inflammation as you can with the cytokine, with the curcumin and the glutathione.
So I've tried to write this down.
Yeah.
Is there a way that if I didn't get it all right, that I'll be able to get it again? Or I have
If you didn't
sorry, I'm totally not prepared. I haven't done this yet.
I got it. So Jackie, what I would do is if you didn't get it all down, well, first of all, it's being recorded, so you can come back.
Oh,
and
that's
listen
what, how do I
tomorrow.
access it? I'll be able to get to it. Okay, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Tomorrow morning you'll be able to do it that way.
Oh, okay. So
right.
I don't want to take more of your time, I guess, just very quick. I'm not going to worry about herxing then, but this will help me fight it and help boost my neurological immune system, although I guess it won't matter because the supplements will be fighting it. Like, I don't know.
The way I'm trying to boost your immune system is to knock your cytokines down. I'm not putting you on a specific immune booster, but it's the cytokine excess that's most immune suppressing. So that's how I'm trying to go at it with you here.
Okay. All right. You're wonderful. And you haven't aged since I've been seeing you. That's like 8 years. I swear.
Oh, believe me, I have.
I just said that to my mom earlier. He's like, he looks the same. Okay.
I have to laugh. I went to I've been having problems with my knee, and my surgeon and I are starting to discuss knee replacements.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh God, here it is. It's now that time.
Well, no one's going to have better thoughts than I would on how you could tackle that. Than you.
Yeah. Right. Good luck to you and your mom.
Thank you so much for everything. See you soon.
You're welcome. Okay. All right. Athena, I see your hand up there.
Just a follow-up question that's kind of unrelated, but maybe related.
Sure.
To some of the neurological symptoms, because there's so much many millions of dollars now being invested in the vagal nerve stimulator category.
Yeah.
And some of the literature that's now linking vagal nerve injury to long COVID. That was kind of interesting to see in Canada, where we have nothing. I wondered if you had any thoughts as integrating that, if people have a resource as an adjunct for some of these symptoms and what you found if you do integrate them.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I have not, how can I start by saying this? So I'm very much aware of some of the new research coming out on vagal nerve injury. And also if your vagal nerve is inflamed, injured, etc., it actually can affect about every organ in the body, because your vagal nerve, everyone, is a nerve. It's one of the, what's called the cranial nerves. And it's a nerve that starts in your brain stem, and it is the nerve that controls, basically is the regulator, I will say, of your adrenaline, anti-adrenaline system. I'm kind of simplifying it, but that's what it does. But in addition, it has nerves that feed every organ in the body. And we're starting to know that it is involved in much more than just regulating adrenaline and anti-adrenaline. It has some activities in regulating every organ in the body. So if it gets inflamed or if it gets injured, it can result in irritation and malfunction of about everything, basically. Okay. There's work and science starting to be done at ways of trying to calm an agitated vagal nerve system. And so there are some basic things that you can do. You can do meditation, for instance. You can do breathing exercises. You can do the Gupta method that many of you may be familiar with, that is involved in limbic system retraining. Okay, you can do DNRS, but any activities that calm the vagal nerve, which, you know, meditation, breathing exercises, etc., are useful ways of helping with the vagal nerve, right? In addition, there are companies now that are starting to make vagal nerve stimulators, basically, that have a way of helping to calm that agitated vagal nerve as well, too. I'm not as familiar with the actual products that are out there. I know I'm starting to see, I need to spend some time with the various vendors at my next, the group that's doing a lot of looking at this and explaining this would be the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, A4M. And at their conferences, their big one is in December. That's the one that I just talked about in December. I gave a talk on mitochondria. And their follow-up meeting is in April. Their spring meeting is in April. And I know at the December meeting, there were a number of vendors with their vagal nerve stimulators. I just didn't take the time to go and talk with them. I do at the April meeting plan to go and talk to some of those vendors, because I'm very interested in what their science is and how the benefits that they are seeing with their machines versus doing breathing, doing exercise, doing meditations as a way of calming your agitated vagal nerve as well too. Athena, does that answer your question for you?
It does. I think the good news at the end of this is all of these millions of dollars that are being invested, we're going to know a whole lot more in a couple of years, particularly because they're publishing things about like you say, like the brainstem and COVID crossing over to, there was a paper recently on the brain meningeal skull axis and long COVID.
Yeah.
So
very interesting. Yeah.
it's
No,
very,
fascinating. Yeah, no, there was I know at A4M in December, there was, I sat through a couple hour lecture on the vagus nerve. It was really fascinating. I mean, I just briefly summarized it here, but all of the effects it has on all the organs, just a phenomenal, actually.
And we have used the devices at home. We have some pretty rudimentary devices compared to what you have in the States. But it is very helpful, I want to say. So it'll be interesting to see how that fits in with patients, you know, if it's affordable going forward.
Yeah.
And
it's also considered at this point, I mean, I think it's valid science, but it's considered extremely alternative by the conventional community. They think this stuff is all woo-woo, but it is actually got some foundation behind it, though.
oh yeah, I mean, Harvard's been working on that for years, so
Yeah.
it's yeah. Thank you. You are looking younger every week. You are looking.
I'm limping more every week. I just actually had a big steroid injection in my knee 2 days ago, and it's we're gonna see. I'm talking to my surgeon. She thinks we're gonna try a brace and a bunch of other stuff. And I just looked at her. I said, "What the hell?" I said, "It's still gonna need to have it be repaired anyhow. Why don't we just go to the surgery?" She goes, "No, we got to work through this to please the insurance company." And I'm like, "Oh God." Anyhow, That's what I get for all my years of athleticism, I guess. So yeah. Anyhow, all right. Let's see. Let's see. Sandra, next up. Let's see. Does arterisol cause brain fog? I started taking arterisol 5 days ago and noticed more brain fog. Just wondering if that is related to arterisol. So, everyone, arterisol is a product that is derived from a mushroom called Ramana monastrum, I believe is what the mushroom is. Anyhow, this mushroom, an extract of this mushroom can help repair injured linings of your red blood cells, red blood vessels, that is, called the endothelial glycocalyx. So think of your blood vessels as a hose. On the inside, the inside lining is a layer of cells called the endothelium. And just on the inside of the endothelium, sitting in the cavity where blood flows, is this layer called the endothelial glycocalyx that basically is kind of a mucus layer that it's got a bunch of hair cells that stick up between it. And as blood flows over those hair cells and that endothelium, it triggers the endothelial cells to make nitric acid or nitric oxide that then causes blood vessel dilation throughout the whole body. It keeps blood flow going, basically. The endothelial glycocalyx is also responsible for nutrient absorption and regulation of those endothelial cells, and also just regulation of how your blood vessels work. It's a very important membrane. It does get injured, and in particular, it can get injured in long COVID. It can be injured in people with vascular disease like hypercholesterolism. It can be injured. And I postulate, but there's no science on this, I postulate that Bartonella probably injures it too. And the reason I postulate that is Bartonella infects the endothelial cells, your endothelial red blood cells. And I think one of the reasons it's hard to get over Bartonella is that it infects those endothelial cells that results in injury to the endothelial glycocalyx, which then starts limiting blood flow through your very, very small blood vessels so that we can't get your antibiotics and immune system to where the germs are hiding out. Okay, that's my opinion. There's no science. It's never been researched on Bartonella, but it makes sense that Bartonella would also injure that too. So arterisol, I do recommend adding it as part of a COVID treatment. I do recommend it. I also recommend it actually as part of my Bartonella treatments now too. In using it and working with it, I have not seen people get more brain fog from it. I know, Athena, I believe you and your daughter have been using it. I'd be interested if you've had brain fog problems with it, but I haven't had anyone report brain fog to me on it. Now, having said that, what I do want to let you know is and I think many of you probably heard this from me before, there's the Marty Ross rule of medicine, which is anything can happen to anyone with anything. All right. So there are the common side effects that we know about, and then there's what happens in you. So to see if it is coming from the arterisol, you might want to just stop it and restart again and see if it truly is coming from that or not. Okay. All right. So Athena, have you seen any trouble with brain fog as you and your daughter have used it?
No, but I agree with your comment. Anything can happen anytime, but it's highly unlikely, I think, from the arterisol because that's just it's been a game changer for severe POTS.
Yeah.
So arterisol is probably the one thing that's been a major repair tool that we haven't been able to find anything like it. I know.
Yeah. I think with your you and your daughter, I suspect that the Bartonella and the other infections have injured your endothelial glycocalyx, causing all your as part of your vascular dysregulation. But so yeah, I appreciate you guys have had some help with it.
And she was vaccine injured too, as well. So vascular issues were a huge thing when we started, and the arterisol is a game changer.
Yeah.
Slowly with compression gear and everything else. But for severe POTS patients, they couldn't move. She was in bed 21 hours a day at one point.
Yeah. And I think I recommended you start that. I believe it was at 2 pills 3 times a day, and you found when you went after a month, you would drop to 1 pill 3 times a day. Didn't work as well. So did you guys go back up on that?
We did actually. We went back up to your 2 dose because you indicated it wasn't harmful.
Right.
And your suggestion of stop and assess was a really good one, because as soon as she stopped it, she noticed that the circulation was not the same at all.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, very good. Thanks for giving me that follow-up on that too.
Thank
you. All right. Sandra, any other follow-up question there for you?
Yes, I'm curious with Athena, did she have any balance problems when she was taking it? That's more so when I
Yeah.
had problems with more so than the brain fog.
Let's see. Athena, did you hear that? Yeah.
I would say that the balance issues are probably unrelated to brain fog, but I want to say that anyone that reports dizziness and balance issues, I wouldn't rule out craniocervical issues at all.
Yeah.
So that's something that you just might want to consider, particularly with balance, dizziness, visual, anything in that category.
Yeah. But again, or it could just be a side effect of it as well too. So Jim just made a comment here, and I think I misspoke. I said it was a mushroom. It's a seaweed. Jim, thanks for keeping me honest. That's part of my aging. See, I come up with the wrong word. But I appreciate that, Jim. Thank you. All right. Let's see here. Vikas Khan. Let's see. I'm 20. Hi, I'm 27. Developed some neuro symptoms about a year ago. Head twitch, spatial disorientation, thinking problems, ringing in ears, visual processing issues. I've been treating since June with oral antibiotics, Mino, Rifampin, Tindamax, and IV ceftriaxone 2 times a week, and didn't notice any improvement in symptoms or any hercs. For the past 2 months, I've been doing PICC line antibiotics, Doxy and Bactrim, and still no change in symptoms. I took an IGeneX Bartonella fish test 6 times, and it's always been positive. IGeneX also showed Bartonella IgM antibodies, tick-borne relapsing fever antibody, positive culture enhanced PCR. Should I be herxing from antibiotics and be killing bacteria if that's my issue? It's a good question, and then I'll make some comments of something you might want to try as well too. So the type of neurologic syndrome that you've described is what I would with those neurologic symptoms, even if you haven't told me that you had testing for Bartonella as positive, I would say that's Bartonella. Okay, Bartonella can give you that kind of a messy picture. In terms of, and I know you have positive testing, what I would let you know in looking at your antibiotic regimen, when you were doing oral antibiotics, the Rifampin would have been could have helped with Bartonella. The problem is you weren't taking anything at that time to deal with what are called hibernating forms of Bartonella. The Rifampin would have been great for growing Bartonella, but we know that Bartonella also has the ability to hibernate. And those antibiotics do not touch hibernators, okay? The ceftriaxone, Tindamax do nothing for Bartonella. Your Doxy-Bactrim might be a good Bartonella treatment. It could be. But if you're not seeing any benefit of being on that by 2 months in your symptoms, then that combination is not working for you, okay, in terms of Bartonella, all right? I'll tell you in a second what you might want to try antibiotic-wise to talk with your doctor about, but I want to talk about your herx question. So generally, herxing is a good badge of honor, right? When you herx, it's working, right? And also it kind of gives you some validation that what you've got going on is real, all right? That you must have something going on causing you to be sick like you are, all right? But I will tell you in my practice, over the 20 years, I found that probably about 85% of people herx when we're killing germs, but about 15 to 20% do not. And it gets to be kind of frustrating because, with Borrelia, Lyme, it sometimes can take 6 to 9 months, even on the right antibiotic combination, before somebody starts to improve. So if they're not herxing, and in those people it takes 6 to 9 months to get better, sometimes you're scratching your head thinking, am I doing the right thing? Okay, all right. On the other hand, with Bartonella, if you're not herxing, the rule of thumb that I have with Bartonella, if you are on a right combination, usually you will start seeing improvements somewhere by 2 months, no more than 4 months. So if you've been doing for Bartonella, yes, having a herx might give you some indication that you're on an antibiotic combination that's working, but you could be one of the 15 to 20% of people that don't herx. All right. So your other guide then is looking at what's a typical timeline of improvement if something is working in Bartonella. And what I would say is most people, if you're on a combination that's working by 2 months, you'll start seeing improvements in symptoms. I didn't say they're all gone, but starting to see some improvements. Okay. So I question, and the deficiency I see in your, not that they've done anything wrong, but deficiency in looking at your story and what you've just said and knowing what I know is that your treatment hasn't done anything for persisters. All right. And so we need to think about that. Secondly, there are two things that really block Bartonella treatments. One is Bartonella has the ability to develop biofilm slime layers that cover the germ, and you need to have a treatment that deals with biofilms. Secondly, we recognize that Bartonella can wrap itself up in your blood clotting protein called fibrin and stick itself to your blood vessel walls, effectively walled off from your antibiotics and your immune system. So, a treatment, when I see somebody that's treatment resistant, I'd like to make sure that I'm going to do something to break up both biofilm as well as to break up those fibrin nests. Okay. So, where I'm going with this, you might want to take a look and print off for your physician my article called The Ultimate Bartonella Treatment Guide. I'll show it to you here in a minute. In there, I list my favorite herbal and prescription antibiotic combinations to get at growing and persister Bartonella. All right. And my favorite these days is a combination of methylene blue, which is a medicine that would have to be compounded into a pill. And I like to also use.
Anastasia, bathroom's free.
Oops. Athena, I'm just turning off the microphone there. Okay. Anyhow, so methylene blue, and I like to combine it with fluconazole, which you would think of more as a anti-yeast medicine, but it's got good effect at getting at persister and growing Bartonella. The methylene blue is very effective at going at growing and persister Bartonella, and it also breaks up biofilms. So you might want to talk to your doctor about changing over to an all oral regimen of methylene blue, which has great penetration into the blood, into the brain in an oral form. You don't need to be on IV for that. Fluconazole, based on my experience, a cup goes in, crosses over into the brain quite well too, right? There's research out of Johns Hopkins University in the lab that shows this methylene blue is quite effective against growing and persistent Bartonella and breaks apart biofilms. They did research looking at a brother or sister of fluconazole, which is called clotrimazole. And also in the lab, that clotrimazole had great benefit against growing and persistent Bartonella. Clotrimazole is not well absorbed, so many of us started working with fluconazole, its cousin. Or actually, I'm sorry. Clotrimazole is only made for topical skin infections. It's not, and if you try to put it in a pill, it's not absorbed, right? So many of us started looking at using other members of that family, of which fluconazole is another member. And so that's how we came up with using fluconazole. All right. So if you do a fluconazole, 200 milligrams once a day, methylene blue, 25 milligrams to 50 milligrams twice a day combination, that will get at growing and persister Bartonella. You get good brain penetration, even though it's oral. And then you get some breakage up of your biofilms. In addition, if you do that and you get stable on that, then I would consider adding in a group of enzymes from the skin of earthworms called lumbrokinase. And lumbrokinase is a great fibrinolytic, breaks up fibrin in those fibrin nests. And you can, there's two companies that make it. There's a company called Canada RNA that makes a product called Boluki. And there's another company called Allergy Research that makes a product called lumbrokinase. And you could do either one of those products, one pill. You work up to one pill twice a day to break up your fibrin nest. Okay. So those are some thoughts I have for you on that. Vikas, do you have any questions there?
No, that was very useful information. I'll talk to my doctor about those medications. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'll show you the article here. You could print it off by just, doing a right click on my article and you can print it from there. Let me show you here. There we go. So let's see. So this is my article, The Ultimate Bartonella Treatment Guide. And when you go down here, here's my block where I say my favorites. All right. Best prescription combination, the methylene blue fluconazole right there. Okay. And then the way, at least I have a Mac computer. So if I right click, I can actually pull up a screen and I just print the article right from here, basically. Okay. Good luck to you. Does anyone have additional questions or comments about what Vika's just talked about? All right, let's see here. Well, yeah, Tracy said she thought arterisol is ramen sulfate. Let's go look at what it is. I'm blanking on the name of the seaweed. I'll just do a quick screen share here. I'm just blanking. I'm having a brain fart moment there. It's yeah. Oh, Monostroma nitidum. That's what it's called. Ramen sulfate is derived from the green seaweed Monostroma nitidum. Okay. All right. All right, everyone. That's it for tonight. We're already at 7:31 here, and I've got I used to have Basinjis. I think many of you may know that. I now have a new doggy that has joined me that is getting ready to go for his walk. Let me see if I can get him out here. Hey, Blue, come here. You want to come? Come here. Come on. People want to meet you. Blue, what's the deal? Oh, well, can't get him up. Anyhow, he's a rescue that I got from the animal shelter here. He's a really, really pretty boy. He's got the most phenomenal blue eyes in the world, so I named him Blue. And he's something called a Catahoula leopard dog, which is kind of a strange thing. They were actually bred to be farm dogs in Louisiana, so that's where he's come. So it's kind of an interesting dog. I'll eventually show him when he's not so shy. Anyhow, good night, everyone, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. We will do another one of these at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time next week. In the morning, somewhere around 9:30, you'll see that I post up the webinar in the recording section again, so feel free to look at that. And good seeing everyone tonight. All right. Take care.
Good night.
Night. Oh.